a vlog-style book review this month for Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Another one of the Sword and Laser book picks that I'm slowly getting caught up on. Reason I'm doing this one, vlog-style as opposed to interjecting images. Well, let's just say, if you're afraid of spiders, not just in a visual sense, in the sense of many-legged things give you the heebie-jeebies, or many-legged creepy crawlies give you the heebie-jeebies, but also in a somewhat conceptual sense, or if thinking about spiders and their movement and life cycle and how they eat gives you a hard time, this book is not for you. So a chunk of the images that I'd be using for this are spider adjacent. Would be using spider adjacent. So I don't want to put you all through that. So, Children of Time was the book pick for Sword and Laser, not for June, but for May. And it's a complicated book. It's juggling two types of stories with two different kinds of levels of stakes, and which also barely intersect until the very end. One of those stories I enjoyed and looked forward to encountering, which is good because that was the one that took up the most of the book. The other one just kind of put me on edge and wasn't pleasant to read. The premise of it is kicked off by a colonization and uplift attempt gone horribly wrong. Humanity is planning on colonizing an alien world. They've already gotten it terraformed, and their plan is to drop some genetically uplifted monkeys on the planet. These monkeys have been treated with a nanovirus that will boost their intelligence, make sure they get along, and handle their early colonization and development until the planet and the monkeys have developed enough that humanity can just move in. Except when things go awry, not because of failure to plan for technological developments that will come up, but rather because of religious fanatics kicking off across the galaxy what is effectively a campaign of omnicide, which in this instance kills the monkeys and pretty much everyone involved with this project except for the head of their research staff, who uploads her consciousness into a research satellite. Meanwhile, across the rest of the cosmos, these acts of terrorism drive humanity all the way back to Earth, and in this process, over time, renders all these settlements and colonies and space stations, and ultimately Earth itself, uninhabitable. Fast forward to several million years later, where a slowboat colony ship comes to this planet from Earth, carrying aboard it the last hope of the human race. This is, as far as everyone is concerned, literally the only hope for humanity in the cosmos. This is the only only colony ship sent from Earth. Earth will be effectively a dead rock within shortly after their departure, and because of the reason it's a dead rock, reason for all this, because of these acts of terrorism and the biological weapons and nanotech weapons and that sort of thing that have been employed, it is literally impossible to undo the damage. So this is it. And this leads to two problems. First, the researcher and their consciousness does not want the humans to land on the planet because, as far as the researcher is concerned, the humans are descended from fanatics and thus are not human. Second, the researcher thinks the monkeys landed on the planet. The monkeys did not. The monkeys are dead. The nanovirus, however, did, and it proceeded to uplift the insects on the planet, leading to the development of a race of hyper-intelligent spiders, which is why I am not using images in this video, because anything I could do for hyper-intelligent spiders would give you all a hard time. Even the people who probably aren't arachnophobic would give you a hard time. So this leads to the two narrative threads. One is the development of spider civilization. It goes through the various growing pains that human civilization has gone through as of the early 20th century, though with a particular enacted twist. For example, the push for equal rights between genders includes the right to not be killed and eaten after mating for men, which is like women have stated that, like, in a lot of cases, dating men is putting life in their life in their hands, and that's, I'm not understating that. With the spiders here, this is a literal thing because how spiders mate. On the other hand, thread is the colonists trying to land on the planet. When that doesn't pan out, trying to find somewhere else, and then coming back when they determine there literally are no options left, and doing one final push. Of these, the spider civilization side is the most really interesting and engrossing to me, as while it's familiar, it handles things like massive global pandemics like the Black Death and the flu pandemic of the 1920s, global wars, religious unrest. On the other hand, it is radically different because of its insects, and the way they communicate information is absolutely different from how they communicate amongst themselves beyond how sapient, that is, humanoid beings work. There is no spider printing press because spiders are passing information to genetic memory combined with very limited writing through knots and webbing, so you don't get stuff like the Gutenberg's Bible being printed on a printing press, revolutionizing communication, that sort of thing. On the other hand, the human plot is just stressful to read. The stakes for the plot are straight up the fate of humanity with no margin for error, and at no point did Tchaikovsky really do anything to lower tensions, but more than that, they didn't really do anything either to have the rise in tension be gradual. It just starts at full blast, maximum volume, and never lets up. Now, ostensibly, this take allows for a stronger sense of catharsis when you've concluded the story, but instead, but I found it's exhausting. It's just constantly going full tilt, full blast, and no opportunity to rest. Like when you do stuff like this in a movie or a television show or that sort of thing, it's a relatively short form work of fiction. It's a tonal thing, a presentational thing that works well in the context of a short story. This is not a short story. It's a fairly large book. Like the break, like near as I can tell, Tchaikovsky's his form of providing a break for the reader is shifting gears back to the spiders. Except that's not shifting gears in terms of the tension on the human plot. That's still going. And arguably, with the things going on with the spiders, all that really ultimately does is just, is in a way, increase the scope higher for the human plot. Because now you have this more and more developed spider civilization that the humans will be encountering when they get back. It reached a point where I just had to take a couple days off of the book to read something else. Like, the reason I did my blog post about the K-Manga service when that launched, and comparing it with a bunch of other services, is because I had to take the book down. But that I left the book at home and brought my tablet to work and went through the manga services on my breaks for a few days and did that instead. Because at least it's like, that is something else. I can take a breath, relax a bit, and then when I'm ready, bring the book back. And then even then, after I finished the book, while the ending not going to say it's happily ever after, but it's not as dark as it seems like it's leading up to. I'd honestly say it did not hit that sense of catharsis that I was really hoping for because of how quickly it ends in a lot of respects. Now, it's not like whiplashy abrupt. I'm going to get to this a bit whenever in a future video when I talk about the Fourth Wing, but which is the Sword and Laser pick for June. But it was abrupt enough that there just wasn't enough real denouement downtime to let the reader catch their breath and go to the conclusion. So that, again, afterwards, I had to basically go, okay, I'm going to read some very fluffy, light material for a while after this, rather than anything more serious that I had in mind, because I need wind down time. I need a chance to catch my breath and cool down after what is effectively a massive sprint for a significant chunk of the book. So was the question, do I recommend it? No. It is not a bad book. And I did really like the Spider Civilization parts of the story. But the human parts, like, very few points have I gone to a book where I've hit an element of I can't even for a portion of the plot. And not based on other content elements like horror in the, like, particularly graphic or intense horror, or a emotionally intense, like, I mean, this is emotionally intense, but it's not the usual things that would make me have to take a break from a book, like with a horror novel or with graphic violence or that sort of thing. This is a case of just managing to find like this way to turn the stakes up to 11, and then find, oh, they didn't document it in the book, but this knob actually goes to like 15, and they're just cranking it further and further. That's where I stand with this book. I enjoyed it, but but it's not ultimately my cup of tea.
Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Toss me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.